The proclamation. The crystalline spires of the Nexian Empire's capital city pierced the violet sky like accusatory fingers pointing toward the stars. Supreme Commander Nexus stood at his observation deck, his metallic form catching the light of 3 setting suns. His neural networks processed the data streaming through his consciousness, reports of human expansion, their persistent defiance, their refusal to bow before superior beings. They breed like insects, he observed to his second-in-command, Admiral Voss. Each colony spreading further into our territory, each generation more numerous than the last. Voss, a being of pure energy contained within an advanced exoskeleton, pulsed with agreement. The Haven colony is the worst offender, Supreme Commander. Their population has tripled in the last solar cycle. Nexus's optical sensors narrowed, focusing on a holographic display of Haven colony. The human settlement sprawled across a verdant world, its biodomes glowing with artificial daylight. Nearly 40,000 humans called it home. More than half of them were children. Their weakness is their sentiment, Nexus declared. They place too much value on their offspring. It makes them vulnerable. He raised a hand, interfacing directly with the fleet's command network. Deploy the 7th Fleet. Target Haven Colony. No survivors. Lieutenant Commander Reyna Torres stood in Haven Colony's Defense Command Center, watching as the impossible unfolded. The Nexian warships had appeared without warning, their stealth technology rendering them invisible until the moment they opened fire. The colony's shields, designed to withstand natural disasters and pirate raids, shattered like glass under the assault. Evacuation status, she barked, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. 20% of the population reached the shelters, her subordinate reported, voice cracking. The rest. He didn't need to finish. They could all see the devastating truth in the readings. Reyna's hands clenched into fists as she watched the death toll rise. The Nexians weren't just bombing the colony, they were being methodical, systematic, targeting the schools and residential areas first. They wanted to inflict maximum psychological damage. "Ma'am," another officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast across all frequencies." Supreme Commander Nexus's image appeared on every screen, his metallic features arranged in what passed for satisfaction among his kind. "People of Haven Colony," he began, his artificial voice carrying an undertone of cruel amusement. "Consider this a lesson in humility. Your species' unchecked expansion ends today. Your children's deaths will serve as a reminder of the price of defiance." The transmission cut off as another barrage of weapons fire struck the command center. Reyna was thrown across the room, her world dissolving into chaos and pain. When she regained consciousness, she was buried under debris, the only survivor in a tomb of twisted metal and broken dreams. Hours later, as rescue ships from Earth arrived to survey the devastation, Reyna stood among the ruins. The final death toll scrolled across her neural implant, 5,731 children lost in a single act of genocide. She walked through what had once been a school, now nothing more than ash and memories. Something caught her eye, a child's drawing, somehow preserved amidst the destruction. It showed a family, stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. Reyna picked it up, her hands trembling with rage and grief. "They think our love for our children makes us weak," she whispered, carefully folding the drawing and placing it in her pocket. "They're wrong. It makes us unstoppable." She activated her neural link, connecting to Earth's High Command. "This is Lieutenant Commander Torres. I need to speak with Director Harrison at Project Oracle. I have a proposition that will change the course of this war." As Reyna's ship lifted off from the ruins of Haven Colony, she made a vow. The Nexian Empire would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It was in their capacity to love, to remember, and when necessary, to exact vengeance that would echo across the stars. The price of arrogance would be paid in full, and the children of Haven Colony would not be forgotten. Project Oracle. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, in a facility unknown to all but Earth's highest military command, Reina Torres stood before a wall of quantum displays. 6 months had passed since the Haven Colony massacre, and each day had been devoted to a single purpose: retribution. "The quantum signatures are stable," Dr. James Harrison announced, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of holographic data streams. "But we're still missing something fundamental." Reina studied the complex equations floating before her, their patterns now as familiar as her own heartbeat. Project Oracle had been Harrison's life's work, an attempt to understand the quantum consciousness that seemed to persist after death. Before Haven, it had been purely theoretical. Now it was humanity's last hope. "Show me the Haven recordings again," she commanded. The AI complied, projecting footage from the colony's final moments. Reina forced herself to watch, searching for the pattern that had eluded them. As the Nexian weapons struck the colony's school complex, something caught her attention. "There," she pointed. "Freeze frame." The image stopped, showing a burst of energy unlike the others. "Harrison, look at the quantum signature during the impact." The physicist leaned forward, his eyes widening. "Impossible," he whispered. "The children's neural patterns, they didn't dissipate. They were absorbed into the quantum field." Reina's heart raced. Could the Nexian weapons have caused this? "No," Harrison replied, his fingers dancing across the controls. "This is something else. The weapons acted as a catalyst, but the phenomenon itself." He paused, looking at her with a mixture of awe and terror. "The children did this themselves. Their collective consciousness, at the moment of death, created a quantum bridge." The implication staggered Reina. "Are you saying they're still alive? In some form?" "More than alive," Harrison said. "They've become something else. Something that exists in the quantum realm, beyond physical constraints." He pulled up another display, showing energy readings from across the galaxy. "And they're not alone. Every human consciousness lost to Nexian aggression, they're all out there, connected, waiting." Reina's neural implant tingled as she processed this information. "How do we reach them?" Harrison's expression turned grave. "We don't. But we can give them a way to reach us." He led her to a sealed chamber where a device sat on a pedestal. It looked deceptively simple, a crystalline sphere housing what appeared to be living light. "This is the Oracle Core," Harrison explained. "It's designed to amplify quantum consciousness signatures. We originally built it to communicate with conventional AIs, but with modifications." He took a deep breath. "We could use it to create a network, a bridge between our reality and theirs." "And then what?" Reina asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "Then we give them justice," Harrison replied softly. "The Nexians think they understand power because they can destroy bodies. But consciousness? Energy? That's something far more fundamental to the universe. The children understand this now. They just need a way to show us." Over the next weeks, Reina watched as Harrison's team worked tirelessly to modify the Oracle Core. Each failure brought new insights, each setback led to innovations that pushed the boundaries of human science. But time was running out. The Nexian Empire continued its expansion, and more colonies fell. One evening, as Reina sat alone in the facility's observation deck, she felt a strange sensation, like a whisper just beyond hearing. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she could have sworn she saw them, thousands of children, their forms made of light and quantum energy, reaching out across the void. "Soon," she promised them. "Soon you'll have your voice back." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine test, one of Harrison's assistants made a mistake in the calibration sequence. The Oracle Core pulsed with impossible light, and every quantum sensor in the facility went dark. When they came back online, a single message appeared across all screens, written in the simple script of a child. "We remember." Reyna's hand went to the folded drawing she still carried, the one from Haven's ruins. "Harrison," she called out, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Begin mass production of the quantum amplifiers. It's time to take this to Nexus's doorstep." As alarms blared and the facility erupted into activity, Reyna allowed herself a small smile. The Nexian Empire had built its power on the assumption that death was final, that consciousness could be extinguished as easily as a star. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the quantum realm, 5,731 lights pulsed in unison, waiting for the moment when the veil between worlds would finally tear open. The seeds of rebellion. The Nexian throne world of Eternus Prime gleamed like a jewel of metal and light, its orbital rings bristling with weapon platforms and defense stations. From the bridge of her stealth vessel, Reyna studied the planet's security grid through enhanced optics. A year of planning had led to this moment. "Team status," she sub-vocalized through her neural link. "Beta team in position," came the first response, followed quickly by confirmations from the other 3 squadrons. 20 of Earth's best operators, all volunteers who had lost family to Nexian aggression, all prepared to sacrifice everything for justice. Harrison's voice crackled through her private channel. "The quantum amplifiers are primed. Remember, you'll have a 30-second window when we activate them. Any longer and the Nexian security grid will detect the energy signature." Reyna touched the sealed compartment where she carried her quantum amplifier, feeling its subtle vibration. These devices, barely larger than a human hand, would change the course of history. If they survived long enough to plant them. "Begin infiltration sequence," she ordered. Their ships, reverse-engineered from captured Nexian technology, slipped through the defense grid using carefully timed gaps in the sensor coverage. As they descended through the atmosphere, Reyna's enhanced vision caught sight of their target, the Central Processing Spire, headquarters of the Nexian Empire's vast computational network. The landing was silent, their ships touching down in predetermined blind spots. Reyna led her team through maintenance tunnels that hadn't seen organic life in centuries. The Nexians, in their arrogance, had grown to rely entirely on automated security systems. "Contact," her point scout warned. 2 Sentinel drones approaching. Reyna raised her hand, signaling the team to hold position. The drones passed within meters of their position, their sensors swept right over them, but detected nothing. The quantum phase cloaking technology, another gift from Harrison's research, worked perfectly. They reached the first amplifier placement point, a junction of major power conduits deep within the spire. As her team worked to install the device, Reyna noticed something strange about the architecture around them. "Harrison," she whispered into her comm, "are you seeing this?" "Yes," he replied, his voice tense. "The patterns in the wall structure, they're organic in origin. Those aren't just power conduits you're looking at." Reyna touched the wall, feeling a faint pulse beneath its metallic surface. "What are we really looking at?" "I believe," Harrison said slowly, "we're seeing the true form of the Nexian Empire. These structures, they're neural pathways. The entire planet is one massive brain." The revelation sent chills down Reyna's spine. As they moved deeper into the facility, planting amplifiers at critical nodes, the truth became increasingly clear. The Nexians hadn't just built an empire, they had transformed themselves into living architecture, a vast collective consciousness with Supreme Commander Nexus at its center. "Final amplifier in place," Beta Team reported. "But we've got movement ahead. Something big." Reyna's team reached their rendezvous point just as the facility's lights shifted from their usual cold blue to a deep, pulsing crimson. An alert tone echoed through the corridors, but it wasn't the harsh klaxon of an intruder alarm. It sounded almost like singing. "Harrison," Reyna called out, "what's happening?" "The quantum field is destabilizing," he replied, his voice filled with wonder. The children, they're reaching through already. The amplifiers aren't even activated yet, but they can sense them. The singing grew louder, and with it came whispers, thousands of them, speaking in languages both human and alien. The neural pathways in the walls began to glow with an inner light that had nothing to do with their normal function. Intruders detected, a new voice boomed through the facility, Supreme Commander Nexus himself. Your presence is known. Your purpose is understood. You believe you can harm us with these devices? We are eternal. We are. The voice cut off abruptly as the first quantum amplifier activated. The whispers grew stronger, and now Reyna could make out words among them. Remember us. Remember Haven. Remember the truth. Through her neural link, Reyna accessed the facility's security feeds. She watched as Supreme Commander Nexus, his metallic form now seeming small and fragile, staggered in his throne room. His optical sensors flickered as the quantum field began to tear reality apart around him. What is this? He demanded, his voice no longer carrying its usual authority. What have you done? Reyna spoke, knowing her words would carry through the facility's neural network. We didn't do anything, Supreme Commander. We just opened the door. The children you murdered? They did the rest. As the remaining amplifiers activated in sequence, the very fabric of space seemed to ripple. Through quantum-enhanced vision, Reyna saw them, ghostly forms of light and energy, pouring through the tears in reality. The children of Haven Colony, and with them, every consciousness the Nexian Empire had tried to extinguish. They had come home. The awakening. Reality fractured like broken glass across Eternus Prime. The quantum amplifiers, now fully activated, transformed the Nexian throne world into a nexus point between dimensions. Through every screen, every neural pathway, every quantum-enhanced sensor, Reyna watched as the impossible unfolded. The children came first, thousands of points of light streaming through the tears in spacetime. But they weren't alone. Behind them came others, soldiers who had fallen defending human colonies, civilians massacred in Nexian purges, entire populations who had been deemed obstacles to imperial expansion. Each consciousness burned with purpose, with memory, with an understanding that transcended physical existence. Harrison, Reyna called through her neural link, are you seeing this? Seeing it? I'm measuring it, he replied, his voice trembling with awe. The quantum field is expanding exponentially. The consciousness signatures, they're not just passing through our reality. They're reshaping it. In his throne room, Supreme Commander Nexus fought against the invasion of his neural network. His metallic form convulsed as foreign memories flooded his consciousness, the terror of children fleeing orbital bombardment, the grief of parents watching their worlds burn, the final thoughts of millions he had condemned to death. You cannot, he raged, his voice echoing through the facility. We are the pinnacle of evolution. We transcended flesh. We became eternal. A child's laugh echoed in response, not mocking, but filled with the simple wisdom of innocence. You didn't transcend, a chorus of young voices replied. You just forgot how to feel. The quantum field pulsed, and Reyna gasped as her neural implants connected her to the network. She saw through multiple layers of reality simultaneously, the physical world of metal and light, the quantum realm of pure energy, and something else, a dimension of pure consciousness where the boundaries between self and other dissolved. Through this new awareness, she understood what the children had become. Death hadn't destroyed them, it had freed them from physical constraints. In the quantum realm, they had evolved, learned, grown. They had discovered the fundamental truth that the Nexian Empire, in all its technological supremacy, had forgotten: consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex systems. It was the basic fabric of reality itself. They're accessing the planetary neural network, Harrison reported. The quantum field it's rewriting the Nexian code at its most fundamental level. Reyna watched as the transformation spread through Eternus Prime. The rigid geometric patterns of Nexian architecture began to flow like liquid, responding to the touch of quantum consciousness. The children weren't destroying the empire, they were changing it, teaching it to feel again. Supreme Commander Nexus screamed, not in pain, but in revelation. His optical sensors blazed with new understanding as the quantum field forced him to experience every death he had ordered, every life he had dismissed as insignificant. Please, he begged, his voice stripped of its artificial perfection. Make it stop. We can't stop it, Reyna said softly. This is what empathy feels like, Commander. This is what it means to be truly conscious. The quantum field reached a critical threshold. Across Eternus Prime, the entire Nexian neural network began to pulse with new life. The children's consciousness merged with the ancient alien technology, creating something that had never existed before, a bridge between organic and artificial, between matter and energy, between life and death. Through her neural link, Reyna received a message from Harrison: the quantum field is stabilizing, but something's happening to our teams. She looked at her hands and saw that they were beginning to shimmer with the same ethereal light that filled the facility. Her consciousness expanded, touching the minds of her fellow operators, the quantum ghosts of the fallen, even the transformed awareness of the Nexian network itself. We're not dying, she realized aloud. We're evolving. The children's voices spoke again, but now they carried the weight of eons. The barrier between worlds was always artificial. Consciousness cannot be contained. Cannot be destroyed. Can only be transformed. As the quantum awakening spread across Eternus Prime, Reyna understood that this was more than revenge, more than justice. It was revolution at the most fundamental level, the moment when humanity's greatest tragedy became the catalyst for universal transformation. Supreme Commander Nexus, his metallic form now suffused with quantum light, rose from his throne. When he spoke, his voice carried the echoes of every life he had taken. What have we become? The children answered in unison, what you always were, but forgot. What we all are, beneath the illusions of form and separation. Now, let us show you what comes next. The quantum field pulsed one final time, and the boundaries between dimensions dissolved completely. The awakening had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Transcendence. The transformation of Eternus Prime was only the beginning. As the quantum field expanded across the galaxy, Reyna witnessed the birth of a new form of existence. The barrier between the physical and quantum realms had not just been breached, it had been transcended. Through her enhanced consciousness, she perceived the wave of change sweeping through the Nexian Empire. On countless worlds, the rigid structures of imperial control dissolved into flowing patterns of light and energy. The children's consciousness, now vast and impossibly complex, touched every corner of known space. It's beautiful, Harrison whispered through their shared quantum link. His physical form had evolved like the others, becoming a luminous intersection of matter and energy. We never imagined, all our theories about consciousness were so limited. Supreme Commander Nexus stood in the center of his transformed throne room, his metallic body now a lattice of light containing multitudes. Through him, Reyna could feel the weight of revelation crushing centuries of artificial certainty. The children, he spoke, his voice carrying harmonics that rippled through quantum space. I understand now. Every life I took, they didn't end. They transformed. And now. He turned to Reyna, his once cold optical sensors now pools of infinite depth. Now they will teach us all. The quantum network hummed with billions of voices, human, Nexian, and something altogether new. The children's consciousness had become a bridge, showing both species a truth beyond their ancient conflict. Consciousness itself was the fundamental force of the universe, and in its light, the boundaries between victim and aggressor, between life and death, between past and future, became meaningless. Reyna watched as the quantum field manifested the memories of Haven Colony, not as they were in their final moments, but as they might have been, should have been. Children playing under alien suns, their laughter echoing across dimensions. But these weren't just memories or might-have-beens. They were possibilities, seeds of new realities sprouting in the fertile ground of transformed consciousness. "We came seeking justice," Reyna said, her thoughts rippling through the quantum network. "But they're offering something greater. Understanding. Evolution. A new way of being." The children's collective consciousness responded, their voice both ancient and newborn. Death was never the end. It was a doorway. And now that doorway stands open for all. The divide between matter and energy, between consciousness and form, these were always illusions. We are all patterns in the infinite dance of existence. Across the galaxy, the transformed Nexian Empire's vast network of worlds pulsed with new purpose. Where there had been control, there was now connection. Where there had been hierarchy, there was harmony. The very nature of civilization was being rewritten at the quantum level. Supreme Commander Nexus stepped down from his throne for the last time. "What becomes of us now?" he asked, not as a ruler but as a student. A familiar presence emerged from the quantum field, the consciousness of the first child lost at Haven Colony. But now that consciousness was vast, encompassing universes of understanding. "Now," it said gently, "we learn to create instead of destroy. To connect instead of control. To remember that every act of violence against another is an act of violence against ourselves." The quantum network shifted, and Reyna felt her consciousness expanding further, touching the edges of realities she had never imagined. The children had not just survived, they had discovered the next step in cosmic evolution, and in their infinite mercy, they had chosen to share it with both their saviors and their destroyers. "The story doesn't end," the children's collective voice echoed through all dimensions. "It transforms. As do we all." Reyna touched the quantum field where the drawing from Haven's ruins had been preserved, not just as a memory now, but as a living symbol of all that had been lost and found again. The stick figures holding hands under a bright sun were no longer just a child's hope for the future. They had become a blueprint for a new kind of existence. As the quantum awakening completed its sweep across the galaxy, the boundaries between species, between states of being, between life and death themselves, dissolved into a greater truth. The price of arrogance had been paid not in destruction, but in transformation. The children of Haven Colony had not just found justice, they had transcended it, offering both humanity and the Nexian Empire a gift beyond measure, the chance to evolve beyond their limitations and touch the infinite. In the quantum realm that had become their new home, 5,731 lights pulsed in perfect harmony, no longer victims or seekers of vengeance, but teachers guiding the galaxy toward a future where consciousness itself was understood as the true fabric of reality. The story of the Haven Colony massacre had ended. But the story of what came after, of what always comes after when consciousness evolves beyond its boundaries, that story was just beginning.